Shocking new guidelines for breast cancer screening were released this week, which have the entire medical world talking. Among the recommendations are no mammograms and no self-breast exams before 50. Joining me to discuss these guidelines are Dr. Marie Savard, an internist and medical contributor for Good Morning America, and the lovely and talented Olivia Newton, herself a breast cancer survivor turned activist. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Olivia, let me start with you. You were in your 40s when you were diagnosed with breast cancer, yes?
Yes.
How did you detect it?
I found the lump myself.
You found it by breast exam?
Yes, self-breast exams. That's why I'm so up in arms. That why would they not advocate that we do regular self-breast exams? It's an obvious thing to do. It's common sense.
Did you
find
then
something? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you find something that isn't right, then you go get it checked out, which is what I did.
Yes, well, we're going to get to that with the doctor, but I want to just hear your story. Did you follow it up with a mammogram?
Yes, I did. I followed up with a mammogram. The mammogram actually was negative, which is unusual, and I don't say that to scare people, but I instinctively felt there was something wrong.
Really?
And so did the doctor. So he did a surgical biopsy. He did a needle biopsy first, which was also negative, which I know is not common either, but still didn't feel it was right because I'd had lumps before and I wasn't feeling my best. So he did a surgical biopsy and then found the cancer. So I was very fortunate.
I see. Well, Doctor, we 40s have always been told to have an annual mammogram. What changed this all of a sudden?
You know, sadly, I don't think anything major changed. There have not really been there wasn't a big new study that made a difference. What I think happened was this expert panel got together. It was a new panel, looked at all the numbers, crunched the numbers as we were taught, and decided to weigh lives, women's lives on one side, versus side effects, inconvenience, pain of biopsy, radiation, which the radiation dose is so much lower.
Yeah.
Not much new has happened. If anything, the mammogram has gotten better. Digital mammogram, people aren't really talking about, or ultrasound, which obviously probably helped you be diagnosed. Lots of things for women out there. And to say to women between 40 and 50, leading cause of cancer death in women in that age group, don't do anything. It's crazy.
Well, my information is mammograms catch 1 in 2,000 of breast cancer cases in women between 40 and 49.
Well, it's actually
that's pretty good, isn't it?
They save 1 out of almost 2,000 women's lives in that period of time.
Right.
That's a lot of lives if you multiply the thousands of women in this country.
Exactly. They also recommend to stop teaching women under 50, which is what you were saying, to self-examine their breasts. Why is that?
Why? We are so, I am so insulted and outraged by the thought. Most women that have come to me in practice, many years of practice, come because they trust, just as you did, they feel something is wrong. That gets them, you examine them, you can get the mammogram. The mammogram's not perfect. Yeah. But if it's not, you keep being the squeaky wheel, you end up with the ultrasound and a biopsy.
Why do you think they're saying this, Olivia?
I don't know. It's alarming. It's really alarming to me. But also I know many of my friends found their cancers through self-exam. And the women that have had lumps and have gone and they find there is nothing, they're just delighted that it's nothing. They're not like upset that they had to go through it. They're just thrilled.
But why did they say don't find anything?
It's that I can't imagine.
We're scared to even go there.
Is it not cost effective? Is there some money involved here?
No. What money could be involved in a woman knowing her body?
They don't want false positives.
And they also sort of say the doctor's breast exam, really, there's no evidence that really works. I mean, it's ludicrous to think that a doctor is not going to lay on hands any longer, and what are we going to do? Just
ignore it?
The American Cancer Society, I don't think is going along with this.
No, I think a lot of big medical groups really are quite alarmed about what could happen. Women could fall through the cracks. Women are going to hear this message and think, I'm not going to get that mammogram, it doesn't work, it's kind of painful. Sure. Or they're going to feel a lump and say, well, what's the point of going to the doctors, because they're not going to be able to detect anything.
What do you think is going to happen? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think that we have to keep pushing self-examination. If women can't get breast exams, then we have to do this self-examination. If you find something untoward, go to your doctor and ask for a mammogram. What I'm worried about are the women, the poorer women, that can't get this covered on insurance, because I have a feeling that's where it's leading.
Well, what's going to happen to women over 50 who want an annual mammogram? They want them to have them they want women over 50 to have them every 2 years now. What if you want to have it every year? Will the insurance not pay for it?
Today, Kathleen Sebelius, our Secretary of Health, she came out with a statement saying, we're not going to change anything. She understands the alarm, she understands the limitations of mammography, but right now we are not changing anything. And we're not going to dictate.
Well, private insurers are required by law in every state except Utah to pay for mammograms for women in their 40s at the moment.
But it's a slippery slope.
Don't Mormons get breast cancer?
Over time,
I'm sure they do.
Good point. Of course they do.
I mean,
of course they do. All women, we're all at risk, and that's the bottom line. Women die from breast cancer, and early diagnosis, early treatment
diagnosis
means
is key, yeah.
And they're just talking about deaths, but what about the earlier you diagnose it, the less radical the surgery or the treatment? So we're not talking about that part of the equation as well.
We're going backwards, Joy. Like I was just in Germany and Vienna, and I was introducing my Live Aid, which is a self-breast examination aid tool to help you find lumps more easily.
Yeah.
And the women in Germany are very upset because they are having problems getting mammograms, and they're not given the information. And I heard that this study is based on the European Union, which means we're going backwards, not forwards, in our treatment.
Right. Well, in England, I remember I heard somebody say on TV the other day that in England, they don't start till after 50 with mammograms.
Right, but they've been a country that's worried about cost containment for a long time, and there's no question it's hard. A lot of preventive services have not been given to the degree that we would go along with this in this country, including things like Pap testing, much less. So I say to women that understand the limitations of the mammogram. Ask for a digital mammogram. If you're a premenopausal woman and you have really lumpy breasts, ask if your center does the digital, which is more sensitive. If you have a lump, don't just rely on that negative mammogram. As you did, ask to get the ultrasound.
I mean, they're saying don't check yourself in the shower.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, so let's say this all goes through. So let's say you happen to be checking yourself, or maybe somebody else finds it. You should be so, you know.
Of course.
Exactly.
Men do find lumps. That's
find
not that uncommon.
Okay, so now are you supposed to not? Are you supposed to say, "Oh, I didn't find it because I'm not allowed to find it"?
You're supposed to ignore
Or
it.
what are you supposed to do?
Well,
It's the stupidest thing
in
I've
all
ever
fairness,
heard.
they do say be aware. You know, I've heard some experts say, well, women should be aware of their bodies and report anything. But what kind of a message is that? Be aware, but we don't want you trained in this process. We don't want you to be very good at being aware.
I feel as though there's some kind of war against women in the health right now.
I
There's
feel...
this Stupak amendment, which really will deny women insurance to get an abortion if they need it. They have to have a rider on their private insurance if they wanted to get an abortion, as if you could plan that you're going to get an abortion. And now there's this, which is going to curtail all of these tests for women.
No, and there was a lot of responses, because I looked on my website, on the ABC website, they all said things like, what about men's health? What about prostate cancer? Well, we are asking about prostate cancer.
What about Viagra? Viagra's covered.
We're paying for Viagra.
Do you know that Viagra is covered by insurance? Doesn't that annoy you?
And men do get breast cancer. Maybe that's what it's going to take. Because I know a man who was using my breast self-examination, and his wife used it on him, and he found it. So, and he was in his 30s.
Yes, I know somebody who had breast cancer as a guy. So it does happen to men also.
And they get mammograms. They need to be tested if they find a lump. So we don't want to... I think we can't, as you said, we can't go backwards. Let's have better technology, but women between the ages of 40 and 50 cannot just have nothing.
So what's your final word to women watching, both of you, right now?
Trust your instincts.
Yes.
Examine your breasts. Be vigilant about every aspect of your body. Speak up. Be that squeaky wheel.
And don't let this legislation go through, whatever it is that...
Be in control of your own health and your breast health. Be vigilant on your breast health. And if you feel a lump is a lump is a lump. You're terribly clever to find a lump or know if it's unusual.
Most lumps that you find are benign.
Most are, but if there's something that feels a little different and you know that, and if you're doing regular checkups, you should be aware of what's normal for you and what isn't.
Exactly.
And then you know
lumps that don't go away. Women know when there's something different.
It was interesting that you knew.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Savard. Olympia's going to... Olympia.